Merci, Michael. Mr. Noël Latif, President of Foreign Policy Association, a great friend of Quebec. Michael, thanks again. Ambassador Dewar, Consul General John Prado, Madame Dominique Poirier, la déléguée du Québec à New York, bonjour. It's truly an honor to be here with you today in this great city. So I'll start by giving you a little course of French. New York est une ville merveilleuse, mais Montréal et Québec sont si belles, n'est-ce pas? Maybe at the end of our lunch you can repeat this after me. You know, after more than 400 years of history, Quebec, we all know it, is the heartland of French culture in North America. And in Quebec, we've always felt and expressed both a strong sense of identity that forms the basis of our distinct nature, and also a pride of being Canadian citizens. Our opinions about Quebec's future may differ, but this pride and sense of belonging are shared by all Quebecers. For a majority of Quebecers, and for me, this national pride goes hand in hand with being part of a greater whole, a greater project, a greater idea, the Canadian Federation. Seeking a balance between these two sentiments is at the core of our history. And the diversity of our population is a source of innovation and productivity. It also demonstrates our openness to others and our desire to build lasting partnerships with our neighbors and all around the world. This is my third visit to the U.S. since I was elected Premier of Quebec last April. I took part in the New England Governors and Eastern Canadian Premiers Annual Conference in New Hampshire, and later visited Maine for the World Acadian Congress. I had the opportunity to meet with our Northeastern partners and deepen alliances that will enable us to continue working together towards common goals. Indeed, in this context of moderate and unequal growth, in a global effort to fight climate change, as a continent, we must work together to retain our competitive advantages. Many factors influence our capacity to succeed, and my government has the responsibility to create an environment that will foster growth and investment, realizing that growth and job creation is not only, and by far not only, the job of government, but is accomplished by entrepreneurs operating in an open, well-regulated business environment. As some people say, and I would agree with this, government should steer, rather than row. The quality of our institutions of higher learning all across our territory gives us great expectations for the future. Our people is our greatest strength. Montreal is home to 4 major universities, and there are a number of others elsewhere in the province, and several hundred research centers, many with international reputations. 3 of Canada's 7 most active research universities are located in Quebec. Only in Hong Kong and Montreal will you find in the same city 2 world-class universities functioning in 2 different languages, McGill and Université de Montréal. I'm very proud of that. Our youth deserve to have the same opportunities my generation had. Our responsibility is to build a society that will allow them to make their own choices. This is why my government has made fiscal responsibility and growth its core priorities. And that is indeed the main takeaway from our first budget table last spring. Our plan is simple, it's not brain surgery. Revive the economy, restore public finances in order to give us the flexibility and freedom of choice that will enable us to respond to the needs of Quebecers now and in the future. Our goal, and we will do it, is to balance our budget by 2015-2016. This will be achieved through a combination of budgetary discipline and a longer-term, more structural approach. With that in view, 2 commissions have been put in place. One will propose changes to our tax policies, and the other, this one permanent, will review our programs on an ongoing basis, checking their pertinence, coherence, and affordability. In foreign trade, although we have made significant progress, I believe that we are not living up yet to our full potential. We should increase our presence on global markets and attract more direct foreign investment. We have a plan to do better, and in fact, we have 5. The Plan A, maritime strategy, a focused action directed towards our SMEs, responsible exploitation of our vast natural resources, including hydroelectricity, and the reduction of greenhouse gases seen as an area of economic opportunity. I will discuss this later. We believe that the Plan R and the maritime strategy will go a long way towards improving Quebec's position in the global market and growing our economy. You may remember, some of you, that Quebec launched the Plan R in 2011, an ambitious plan aimed at the development of northern Quebec above the 49th parallel. And this is an area twice the size of France. Instead, maybe here I should say twice the size of Texas. We see this territory as a powerful economic engine, a world-class tourism destination, and an opportunity for a great biodiversity conservation project. Our government is moving forward to accelerate investment and maximize the economic benefits across all regions of Quebec with the involvement of local communities. And a way to facilitate this interaction between government and the private sector is to act as true partners so that taxpayers also reap the direct share of growth, especially when it comes to non-renewable natural resources. In our views, the era of old-fashioned government subsidies is over. Today's economy is calling on governments to be a bona fide partner in promising projects through minority equity stake, debt, or other means. In pursuing the development of northern Quebec, we confirm our commitment to making this region a major engine of economic development for all of Quebec. And to support this commitment, we created Capital Mines Hydrocarbures, a $1 billion fund which sole purpose is to acquire equity interest in Quebec's mineral resources projects. Quebec North features rich reserve of many metals, nickel, platinum, zinc, gold, lithium, vanadium, rare earth elements, and soon our first diamond mine. Many of these minerals are used in advanced manufacturing, robotics, medical instruments, aerospace, IT, and clean tech such as solar panels, wind turbines, and electric vehicles. Some of the first projects announced at the beginning of Plan R in 2011 came to fruition this year. Last July, I had the pleasure to announce the beginning of the construction phase of Quebec's first diamond mine. The Renard mine of Stornoway Diamonds is indeed a great example of a successful Plan R project. Why? First, it opened up our territory to the north through the construction of a new road, which cost was shared between government and the company. Quebecers are minority equity owners through the government and our Ressources Québec subsidiary, and the Cree community is one of the partners of the project, exemplifying the fact that Aboriginal communities must be and will be part of the development of northern Quebec. You should know that Quebec's north is home to some 33,000 Aboriginal people, including the Inuit, members of the Cree, Innu, and Naskapi First Nations. The Plan R's success depends on our ability to maintain harmonious relations with local and Aboriginal communities. Education is vital to the communities of northern Quebec, as it is everywhere, and to our economic development. We want northern communities to derive benefits from the economic activity created by Plan R, so we want to make sure educational facilities and vocational training are matching their needs. And indeed, in our first budget, we included an investment of $100 million dedicated to training centers for the Aboriginal community. And last week, we announced our partnership with Ariane Phosphate, who is currently working on a phosphate mining project north of the Saguenay region. The Plan R area accounts for 2/3 of installed hydroelectricity capacity in Quebec, the world's 4th largest producer of hydropower. This week in particular, the Climate Week, it is worth noting that close to 98% of our energy comes from renewable sources, hydroelectricity being, of course, by far the main one. We are working on a strategy that will leverage our surplus of hydroelectric capacity to attract industrial projects from around the world with our renewable, clean, low-cost, and reliable energy. In today's carbon-conscious world, this is already a great strategic advantage. The price paid for electricity in 2013 by Quebec's industrial sector is more than competitive. It's 36% lower than in the US, 61% lower than in OECD countries, 66% lower than in the G7. So the Plan R is also built, of course, on the principles of sustainable development. And while we remain committed to reserving 50% of northern Quebec after its full economic potential will have been defined, The territory will be developed according to the principles of sustainable development. So it is not only about the economic benefits of mining, but also about the environment and the social development of communities. It is worth noting that Quebec recently delegated, and it's a world first, the governance of a large chunk of its northern territory to the Crees and non-Aboriginal Quebecers working side by side. That's a story for the North. We invite you to be part of that story. But we also remember that Quebec's beginnings are intertwined with the sea. So part of our future, and a large part of our future, depends on this relationship. The St. Lawrence River is the economic and demographic backbone of Quebec. At the estuary, the St. Lawrence is 65 kilometers wide. Leading to the Great Lakes, it connects the Atlantic Ocean and North America's industrial heartland. Our network of ports along the St. Lawrence handles some 100 million tons of freight every year. And it does represent the shortest, least expensive path between Europe and the Midwest. It is also worth highlighting the fact that Quebec City will host the next summit of the Council of Great Lakes Governors in June 2015. Two agreements tend to further stimulate transatlantic trade, the Canada-EU trade agreement and the planned similar agreement between the US and the EU. Likewise, a new set of locks in Panama will boost trade between the East Coast and Asia. In the longer term, the Northwest Passage linking the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans via the Arctic Islands in Canada's north will open in the decades ahead. This will cut 7,000 kilometers from the route between Asia and Europe, and it's all around Quebec. Those are the reasons why my government has proposed Quebec's first maritime strategy to streamline the logistics chain and promote a strategy of sustainable development for the Gulf and the St. Lawrence. By coordinating the development of our ports with road and rail infrastructures, we can and will lower transport costs. It also calls for a corridor linking the St. Lawrence Seaway with road and rail networks, and this will create the winning conditions for private investment in transport and logistics, which will in turn boost the capacity of the Port of Montreal. Let's remember again that shipping remains by far the safest, most environmentally responsible, and cheapest way to transport goods. Increased volume of both river and coastal shipping will make our businesses more competitive while lowering carbon footprints. This strategy also includes other components: sustainable fisheries, aquaculture, marine biotech, cruise ship tourism, and of course, training the maritime professionals of tomorrow. It is another major economic initiative that will drive wealth creation, employment, and private investment in all our regions. It will enable us to responsibly draw on the St. Lawrence River's full potential through increased access to the Port of Montreal, multimodal network and strategic infrastructure investments, as well as offer an integrated tourism strategy to fend off competition in the cruise ship industry. However, to achieve the strategy's objectives, one of the things we need is modern and more reliable ships. This is why our government intends to provide additional support for Quebec's ship owners and cruise lines in their efforts to upgrade and replace their fleet while building expertise in our shipyards. As such, we offer an additional 50% depreciation deduction for building or renovating ships. We have also announced the creation of a tax-free reserve to finance ship maintenance, renovation, and construction projects awarded to one of our 8 shipyards. These measures will reinforce the competitiveness of our maritime transport industry while securing and creating high-quality jobs. It will be an opportunity for Quebec to establish itself as a major logistical hub for commercial goods handling in North America. This way, we will be able to harness the opportunities presented by CETA and the substantial growth anticipated in maritime transport. And we want to carry this message around the world. In October, I will take part in an economic mission to China. On our way back, we will visit Iceland, where we have been invited to present the Plan now to the Arctic Circle in Reykjavik. This is the vision that we will promote. And I do believe that Quebec has all the right assets and strategic advantages to take full advantage of this century's challenges. Let me say it loud and clear, and it's been said before, but it needs to be said again. Quebec is open for business. We want the world to know that Quebec is one of the best places on earth to invest, do business, and settle one's family. And the way we do business in Quebec also includes the necessary coexistence between the economy and the environment rather than a false choice between the two. Yesterday, United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said it best, and that's a great line, I will borrow from him. There is no plan B for action, as there is no planet B. Last Sunday, the People's Climate March showed that we have a responsibility to others and to ourselves and the next generation. The business model is shifting, and Quebec is at the forefront of this change in many areas. In our view, climate action generates important economic development opportunities and new jobs provided by the green economy driven by innovation and creativity. We should never have to choose between growth and a cleaner environment. The two go together, since there are huge costs associated with unmitigated climate change. The question is not how much would it cost to fight climate change, but how much it costs to do nothing about it. And it costs a lot to do nothing about it. As a matter of fact, building a low-carbon economy provides many opportunities for new businesses and new business models to innovate and create wealth. We first introduced carbon pricing. The Secretary General this morning said carbon must be priced. Well, we've been doing it since 2007 when we joined the Western Climate Initiative and then introduced a duty on fuels and fossil fuels. But in 2012, we went further. We introduced a cap-and-trade system for greenhouse gas emissions, which has been linked to the California system since January 2013. This is the only example in the world of a cap-and-trade system operating with two subnational states in two different countries. And we will, California and ourselves, will run our first joint auction in mid-November. And of course, we now want to recruit new partners among our continental neighbors. All revenues generated by the auction sales of units, it's estimated that it will be roughly $3 billion by 2020, will be exclusively dedicated to financing the second edition of our Climate Change Action Plan, a comprehensive plan addressing our need to adapt to climate change while reducing our GHG emissions by 20% in 2020 from the 1990 level. Quebec is also very active, and we had an opportunity yesterday to talk about this, in seeking recognition for the role of state and provincial governments, as well as for large cities, in the fight against climate change. For example, as a federated state, we will be attending the 21st session of the Conference of the Parties to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change in Paris in 2015. We also make electric transport a priority, another economic opportunity for growth. We have research facilities and are perfecting the know-how to move forward. Electric transport industry, which includes motors, batteries, and charging stations, will create jobs, reduce our carbon footprint, and take us one step closer to our goal of building a low, sustainable, low-carbon economy. And as I mentioned before, hydroelectricity generates tremendous business opportunities. With additional transmission lines in the Northeast US, we could be supplying much more at a very competitive price. And this could also help stabilize the price of electricity in this country, given, for example, the high volatility of gas prices during the last winter, and at the same time, reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Quebec supports the Canada-US Beyond the Border Action Plan, designed to facilitate the movement of people and goods while strengthening security through such measures as custom-free clearance and investments in border infrastructure. The American market as a whole continues to be a preferred market for our companies and generated over $73 billion of trade value in 2013. It's a long-standing relationship and a market that we will continue to develop. Since the adoption of NAFTA, many Quebec and US companies have already stepped up their presence in the North American market, and today hundreds of subsidiaries of American companies operate in Quebec, generating about 100,000 jobs. We can think of General Electric, Pratt & Whitney, Bell Helicopter Textron, Morgan Stanley, and CMC Electronics, just to name a few. In the recent years, too, a number of Quebec companies have also stepped up and became major players in the US economy. A few examples. Bombardier's operation generates nearly $3 billion in operation with its US suppliers every year. The agri-food group Saputo now employs over 2,000 people and at its 10 plants operating in 9 American states. And the Caisse de dépôt et placement du Québec manages over $40 billion in assets in the US. Closer to home, our biggest trade partner, the state of New York, is now home to a large number of manufacturing companies such as Novabus in Plattsburgh. The Canon Group and its U.S. subsidiary Structural teamed up to help build Yankee Stadium, Citi Field Stadium, and MetLife Stadium, and they are currently working on other major projects such as the Hudson Yards project. Montreal's Moment Factory has designed and produced multimedia environments for shows by Madonna, Jay-Z, and the NFL, as well as for Oaklay's flagship store in Manhattan. We're very versatile, as you can see. And this creativity, I think, is recognized everywhere now. Cirque du Soleil and Arcade Fire are just two examples of creative Quebec talent that perform regularly in New York. And in the recent days, Mummy, a movie by one of our bright young movie producers, Xavier Dolan, has been designated to be Canada's representative at the Oscar in the category of foreign films. And we do this, I must say, on quite a regular basis for a country of 8 million, a state, sorry, of 8 million people. While maintaining our relations with the US, Quebec was also at the forefront of trade talks, which will soon yield a comprehensive economic and trade agreement between Canada and the European Union, the most comprehensive trade agreement Canada will have ever signed. With our European roots and our North American history, we are the transatlantic gateway for commerce for both our European and North American business partners. We see the European market as a great opportunity, and it has become our second largest economic partner after the US. In 2013, Quebec exports to Europe amounted to $6.8 billion, representing a little bit over 10% of all exports from Quebec. Similarly, Quebec also imported close to $20 billion worth of goods from Europe. With its 500 million consumers, the European Union is a powerful economic force. It's also the world's largest public procurement market, valued at close to $2.7 trillion annually. For its part, Quebec enables access to a key North American market, offering a favorable business environment for the development and strengthening of business and technology partners. We have implemented the tools necessary to encourage European businesses to accelerate their growth and the commercialization of their products in North America. With regard to public procurement, Canada presents to the EU the most comprehensive offer that has ever been made as part of the free trade agreement. This agreement is a huge step forward which advances Quebec and Canada on the world stage. Moreover, and by definition, by establishing themselves in Quebec, American companies will also benefit from the non-tariff access to Europe's markets and enjoy positive spin-offs from this agreement. By choosing Quebec, American companies can also participate in our economic development initiatives, such as the Plan Nord and the Maritime Strategy. Along the years, we have built a network of delegations, offices in the US, and have maintained well-established and fruitful relationships with many US businesses, universities, and states. This mission we have is founded on a principle of vital importance to Quebec: the ability to represent ourselves internationally in the areas within our purview or areas of jurisdiction. This principle is indeed at the heart of the Canadian Confederation's mission to promote the prosperity of its region and provinces by upholding their vitality and individuality. Ladies and gentlemen, our ancestors explored the continent with the help of the First Nations, leaving in their footsteps French names that still mark the landscape in the Midwest, in New England, along the Mississippi. Rooted in northeastern North America for over 400 years, Quebec is a creative and vibrant society, a society at once distinct yet fully integrated into a continent we aspire to enrich with our energy and uniqueness. My message today is clear. Let's work and invest together to make our economies flourish and make our continent a beacon of peace and freedom in today's troubled world, stronger than ever. Thank you.